Everyone, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Take another deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I'd like you to start to feel centered inside of yourself as you're breathing. Breathing in and out, and in and out. Feeling centered, connecting to your heart. Breathing in and out, and in and out. So welcome everyone to Life Shifting in Hell's Kitchen in New York City, Manhattan. This has been a very interesting week, and before I do any talk, I always go deep inside myself to figure out and to get the messages of what I need to relate to everyone in terms of my perception of what's the next life shift for us to embark upon with all this crazy stuff going on. And it was crazy this week. I mean, I created the funeral for my cousin Jimmy, who did pass last week. And on Monday, we had a glorious funeral for him. He looked beautiful in the casket. That's very Italian, to take pictures of the person in the casket. And we were the first ones that were allowed into the funeral home since the pandemic, 10 of us. And it was a great celebration of a beautiful, creative artist's life. And then all of a sudden the curfew hit, and the protesting and the riots and all of that stuff that is on top of the pandemic, that I was just stupefied. I thought, what am I going to say to all of this? And then I watched the funeral, and Andrew Young said it, and it just hit me. Spiritual unity. And I'm going to add on, shift up to spiritual unity and solutions. That's the only thing that we can do in terms of all this chaos. You cannot change from the bottom chakras in the density with the anger and the violence and the polarity that's going on. It's a voice that needs to be heard, yes. And we need to listen very carefully, not only to others, but also to that inner voice inside of us in terms of what's rightful action. I love the quote by Maya Angelou, and I'm going to read it because I was the only one in drama school in England that paraphrased Shakespeare, I was told. So I'm not making a mistake on this because I love this woman. We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color. That is really profound. Gets you right in the heart. So that's the voice that's being heard right now across the globe. Black Lives Matter. This morning, Lillian texted me, my wonderful assistant, executive assistant in terms of my finances and keeping this whole thing together. And she said, Alita, it's all over the globe. And if it wasn't for the pandemic kind of united people in a common feeling and a common cause, which is really true. I mean, it's England, it's the Netherlands, it's Germany, it's Australia, it's Lebanon. I mean, it goes on and on. Black Lives Matter. The voice is being heard. And the thing that's most important that I realized just going through all this turmoil, and then my brother Curtis, of course, in the Guardian Angels, went out with his group to help and wound up getting attacked by rioters. He got hit in the jaw with a fracture. and another guardian angel got hurt. And I thought, if I'm going to tell him not to go out and to protect himself, that is not going to help. I told him not to do a certain thing before he got shot, and he didn't listen, and he got shot. So that's why a spiritual solution to the problem started to make more and more sense to me. Spiritual solutions, spiritual unity from everyone. So what I do when I go home at night is I meditate for 2 hours, sending my brother and the guardian angels light, rays of light as protection, as well as sending the planet light for solutions, because solutions are the most important things. If we are not part of the solution, then we're part of the problem, Eldridge Cleaver said. And then my father, I would remember, he was a merchant seaman. He would come home and he would hold court at the dinner table. And my brother was there, and my sister Maria was there, and I was there. And he would say, evil persists when good men do nothing. And from that early time in my life, that always impacted me. And so it's very important that we move into spiritual solutions and come up the way the whole impact of the funeral was that for me. There was a spiritual energy of singing and bringing in God into the situation, and then asking for solutions and feeling the pain and compassion for the family and for the whole situation that's going on right now. But it was in the context of holding into the hands of God. There was so many times God was mentioned. And so that is the way we're going to change things. We're going to change things by leaving the density and the anger. It's like Mandela said, and I feel this so strongly, that if you have resentment and hatred, I'm putting the hatred in there, towards any human, you die with that, and it doesn't affect that other human necessarily. So we want to cleanse that. You want to feel the feeling. I mean, look, if somebody goes and sees that their store has been totally demolished, or their restaurant has been totally demolished, or their neighborhood, you can't not react to that. Or that there's been injustices for hundreds and hundreds of years. You cannot not react to that. But we don't want to stay in the negativity and the anger and the hatred and the violence, because violence begets violence. That's why you have people like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Mandela and the Dalai Lama. All these men suffered intense atrocities and injustices, but in the end their message was lift it up to a higher vibration, bring God, the universe, beings of light, guardian angels into the solution, and then move your feet. So everybody has a different feeling about their spirituality. Some people connect to God. Think about it for yourself. Do you connect to God? Do you connect to the universe? Do you connect to guardian angels, beings of light, your own spiritual guides? Whatever that is, if you're a musician or an artist, I had a client this week. He's an amazing artist. I know that when he paints, he has to go into that zone. So I said, paint your life like you paint a painting. Your brush strokes are how you're painting your life. The same thing with music. I know that when I sing or when I'm with musicians, we're in a whole different vortex. We're in a different zone when we're channeling in this energy. And that's what you need to connect into. Because in that field, in that quantum field, in that field of love that I talk about in my book, Life Shift, and Deepak talks about unlimited potential, that is where the change happens. You need to hold the vision of what you want as if it's already happened. Surround it with appreciation and gratitude, and that's the catalyst for manifestation and for miracles. When people come to me and they have problems, I don't look at their problem. I'm already seeing them healed in terms of their lives, in terms of relationships, in terms of their health. And when people go to a faith healer and the healer looks at them, the healer's not seeing the condition. The healer's seeing them walking. The healer's seeing them as their higher being self, a different them that they can step into. So if we want to heal the planet and we want to heal the injustices that are going on, then we need to shift up to a higher frequency. Now, not everybody's going to do this. Some people are angry on both sides. But the fact of the matter is, the more we do it inside of ourselves and train ourselves not to loop on negative ideas and constantly pull ourselves down, because energy, right? Our energy directs our thought. Our thought can direct our energy. It's almost like a simultaneous thing. And if you want to create peace and you want to create justice, then you need to see it. You need to feel it and you need to be it. Because we are creating our reality. We as a collective are creating our reality, which is the good news, because if we are creating it, then we can change it. But we need to have that commitment together as a collective to do whatever we need to do, whether it's to connect to our people in administration that we can vote for, form committees and groups, keep our voice out there in terms of our congressmen so they know that this is something that's very important to all of us, and that equality is part of the fabric of America and obviously part of the fabric of the globe. And that this pandemic, because we're all one in terms of how we're suffering, there's masses of people that are passing on and making their transition. There's the quarantine, there's the social distancing, that's the wearing of masks. There is a collective that's happening right now, and we're identifying with ourselves globally. So if we connect globally to envisioning the healing of this situation that is so insidious within inside of our human nature on the lowest level of survival, where we have to feel in certain circumstances that we are superior, rather than knowing ourselves and our God self and our spirituality and letting that beam forth, because that is unconditional love. And where there's unconditional love for ourselves and for others, then there's healing, and then there's not injustice and inequality. And that's not to say that you can't protect yourself or you should become victims of violence, because that's not right either. There needs to be a balance. And that's why the police need to be trained better in terms of the anxiety and the stress that they go under every single day. And people need to be enlightened in terms of what's actually happening and put in solutions. The solutions are the things that are going to make the difference. So once you create the vision and you're creating the uplifting of the spiritual energy into that miracle vortex of healing and manifestation, then you also have to envision that the people that are able to put into effect the solutions do it, and that they become committed to making a change. Now, I've already heard that I believe they're starting to put things to Congress in terms of the changes that need to be made. I believe that's the first time when something like this has happened that they've moved their feet and started some kind of acceleration to solve the problem and to give people an even playing ground in terms of how do we heal this and how do we make it better? That's the most important thing. How do we heal this and how do we make it better? So I'm only translating to you the experience that I've been through this week, which was hitting the wall and hitting the wall and hitting the wall in terms of things just happening, and then rising above it by being in the spiritual vortex and imagining the solutions to my brother being protected with the guardian angels, to more people coming out with solutions, to things being passed and put forth in Congress, to people coming out with a more enlightened idea of what to do, and letting some of the violence dissipate. Because there are criminal elements that do take advantage of situations. That's true. But they don't have to persist, and they don't have to squash down the good people that are here in our cities, that are just trying to make a living in their neighborhoods, that are of all nationalities, Hispanic, African American, white, Asian, whatever it is. It's a conglomerate here, especially in New York, of all different nationalities. And everybody needs to be protected, and everybody needs to be cherished in terms of listening to their voice and listening to what needs to be heard now. So I want you to think about that, and think about that in a way inside of you. In your day-to-day, when things happen, Michael in the Untethered Soul was talking about what he says when things happen to him, he's in a traffic jam or whatever, he says to him, it will be handled. He's got his brain trained, it will be handled. So he doesn't go into the fray of that jerk and blah, 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 and all the frustration. He sits back, and guess what? It's handled. So you can use that technique. It's great to read the book. I haven't yet, but it's a very famous, successful book that's been out. I remember Wayne Dyer used to refer to it quite a bit. So I want you to think about that. Like, you have the power to change your thought. Not that you don't feel the aggravation and frustration, but use the technique in your emotional body that I work with, where you can hold it for the count of 5, and then release it, and then hold it, and then release it, and then say an affirmation. It will be handled. Everything's in divine order. I know this will work out. And then guess what happens? You're putting your energy and your thought into the solution, not the problem. And that's exactly what we need to do here. I'm just going to close on this little story that's really important, because what it seems like now between the pandemic and then the curfews, everything that we're used to is blown up, and our structures aren't there anymore. And the fear factor in the streets, especially with the curfew, is pretty palatable in New York City. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. I know I can see it in LA, Chicago. I haven't seen that much in the other places. Philadelphia, it's pretty difficult. Minneapolis. But the fact of the matter is you don't want to stay in the fear, because then you create more violence and more fear. You want to breathe into it, feel it, and then release it. So at the end of the funeral, I want to share this with you. I was totally sure that the funeral was going to be handled based on certain information I got, and I found out that no, it wasn't. So that is so against anything in my brain that goes A, B, C, and D. I've done maybe 10 funerals in this particular funeral parlor and never had this problem. And naturally, I freaked out for the first time, for a little bit. And then I went, okay, it's not helping me to freak out. It's not helping me that this has never happened before. It's not helping me that I got sideswiped. This is not productive. So I released it. I breathed, held it for 5. I released it. And then I started to move up into higher consciousness, which is see it being paid. See it being handled. See that the forces that need to come into alignment do. And sure enough, I got a message that it will be handled. But naturally, in our life at this particular point, I'm sure you can all relate to different things that have totally shocked you during the pandemic and during this curfew and during the violence and coming home. I had a client who came home from Brazil, which is in an uproar, to her entire neighborhood being destroyed with graffiti and everything else and shops being closed. That's a shock. It's like going through an earthquake. When you go through an earthquake, what you think is solid, like your home, is no longer solid. The human psyche can't take that. It just goes, ugh. But that's why I was saying to you last week or the week before, the breakdown before the breakthrough. That chaos theory that things could be in a certain circle and then they discombobulate and you feel like you're lost and you're disoriented, and then you have to reevaluate from a bigger circle with different belief systems and keep creating going forward. Because there's going to be no normal back to what we knew. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a whole different structure of things. Think about that. You've changed quite a bit during this quarantine and pandemic. I know I have. Our values have kind of changed. What we think is really important has kind of changed. Where we want to live might be questioned at this particular point. How we use our money, what we focus on, what we think is really important, that's all changed. So we're not going to go back to the way it was. We're creating a new structure, a new paradigm that we're shifting up to. We're growing through the pandemic and through the curfews and for all the revolution that's going on. It's a worldwide revolution. And I'm focusing in on the higher outcome and that we get to a higher level. What is that song? Give me a higher love, straight from the sky above. That's what I want you to think. That if we move into this unconditional love for ourselves, our family, and for others, and get that going and start to visualize from a higher perspective, that's what we're going to achieve together, as well as implementing the solutions that come in front of us or that we need to join forces with in committees, in politics, in our own group. And what can we do to make a difference? So it's not just about protesting after a while. It's not just about having a very angry voice. It's about the solutions. How are we going to change this? And if you don't know, just ask yourself, if I did know, what would I do? And your mind will tell you, and you'll do it. So as my dad said, evil persists when good men do nothing. That is true. That's Burke. So now what I want us to do is this very special part of my talk is your own healing. So we want to heal ourselves as well as come up to a higher perspective and dimension and send that healing out to our planet, to our country, to the different groups that are there and that are feeling like we shall overcome. And as Martin Luther King said, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. And the someday is today. This is the call. This is the awakening. This is the wave that the Aborigines were talking about. This is happening. And it's a very amazing time in our life where old structures are crumbling before us across the globe. And we are here to rebuild from a higher spiritual perspective if we all unite together to do that. And it doesn't matter what religion, it's spiritual energy. Okay. So now the energy that's coming through today for everyone is a violet orb of light surrounded by gold. And these orbs of light come in as I'm talking because that's what we need in terms of shifting a vibrational rate. So from a chakra 6 inches above your head, that's called the upper room, just imagine a globe of violet light surrounded by gold. And if you can't see the color, just feel it, because I'm seeing it and I'm bringing it in. And so are hundreds of people that are on this call. Thousands actually seem to be gravitating to my Life Shift talk on Sunday. So that's good, because in unity, there's strength. The more we lift our frequency for ourselves and others, the stronger we become, and the more we resonate to peace, joy, and tranquility within our world and within ourselves. Okay, so feel that orb coming in through the top of our head and going through our whole body as you breathe in and out, and in and out. Breathing in and out, and in and out. And then feel that energy just move in through every cell of our body and just give it space so that we can feel that we're spiritual beings. Light symbolizes that. The more light you let into your body, the more you're connecting to your spiritual being self. Having a physical experience, and you're bringing it into the body. And breathe. And then what I want you to do is breathe into your heart center, because what we're talking about is unconditional love for yourself that goes out to the planet and goes out to the situation now that needs to be uplifted, healed, rectified, and put in the place that it should be put. All men are created equal. Breathe. Feel the light. Now connect into your heart center and see what fears that you might have, what hurts, what resentments you might be holding on to, what feelings of I'm not enough or inequality that you have inside of yourself, no matter what your color. We all have it. So I want you to connect into that heart center where you're doing a disservice to yourself by feeling those things about yourself and about your potential, because you're feeling like you're not good enough. Breathe. Feel the light. Whatever's in your heart center that stops you from loving yourself, feel it, and then hold it for the count of 5 as I use the drum, and then release it. Now there's a tremendous amount of healing energy in this drum, and it channels through for you. So I want you to just let it work inside of your heart center. Breathe, feel the light, and feel any negative energy. You to do right now is get in touch with that sadness that you're feeling for what's going on right now. Hold it for the count of 5 and then release it, because underneath the sadness is a sense of passion and purpose that we want you to connect into so that you're active and you can make the change. All right? So feel those impressions that you have, those visuals that you have. Hold them for the count of 5 and then release them. Release them with the idea that we're going to see the solutions, not the violence, because what you focus on is what you create. So we want to know it. We want to use discerning awareness. We want to identify it. We want to move because of it, but we don't want to hold on to it. That's like holding on to old hurts constantly to remind ourselves that they do exist. Let's move to a place of solutions so that they don't keep going around and around for years and years in perpetuity and nothing changes. Okay, here we go. So you can feel your heart center is more clear now, because you can't send energy out if your heart center is all gummed up, all right? So now what I want you to do is feel that violet orb with the gold energy around it, right in the heart center, and get this feeling of self-love for yourself, unconditionally, like you would give to your own child. And if that's hard, just imagine loving somebody, right? A niece, a nephew, your own child, a pet, and then give it to yourself right in your heart center. And feel that. And you can feel it building. You feel the heat building. So I'm transmitting through my hand now, right into your heart centers. And feel that affirmation, I am loved. And just feel that. I am love. I am loving. I am love. I am loved. I am loving. And let it build one more time. I am love. I am loved. I am loving. And now what I want you to do is I want you to feel that love really, really strong in your own heart center for your own being. And I want you to use the white pearl at your tailbone. Just feel like a straw is in your mouth. You're breathing in the oxygen. White pearl goes up past survival, all the way into your higher chakras for creativity, all the way to the top of your head. You hold it, and then you release any tension, any fear, any negative energy for yourself and for what's going on right now. Let's do that again. The white pearl goes up all the way past our survival, heart center, all the way up to the top of our head, right in that pineal gland. Hold it and release. Now this next time, the pineal gland is the gateway to our spiritual energy. Connie Newton, bless her heart, my teacher, she always talked about that gland. In fact, she would do readings and she would see how the gland was in your midbrain. And she did bridges and did all sorts of things to activate that. because that's the gateway to your spirituality. So I want you to just imagine, as you're bringing this energy up, that you're going into that pineal gland, and then you're going higher into your zone of spirituality. The universe, God, beings of light, guides, guardian angels. And you're becoming one. It looks like there's kind of like a funnel. And you're becoming one with your higher spiritual self and your higher spiritual selves. So we all have higher spiritual selves. They created our physical being. And what I'm seeing right now is there are many higher spiritual selves. Everybody that's on this call and listens to this video connects to. And that group of high-powered super being energy is accessing our ability to send healing to the planet. So as you're up in that vortex, feeling your higher spiritual selves, I want you to imagine this all being healed, that there is equality, and that there are solutions put into place, and that if there's injustices, they get handled immediately and not glossed over, and that everyone has the right to be free and equal and have opportunity. That is what America is about, and now that is what the world is about. The world is clamoring for that opportunity of equality, reaching your highest potential. So, last week, I was talking about the spirit of George Floyd that created a great change for everyone on our planet and for ourselves in particular. And now we want to hold that to its highest place by constantly visualizing the positive in every day of our lives, in every experience that we go through, because you need to get the juice from that, but also in terms of our friends, the political structure, what we put in place to live by, our values, and how we lift our consciousness every day of our lives. We are evolving personally and as a collective. And if we use this opportunity, because everything that we are going through that feels like a tragedy or a block or something that's tremendously unfair is an opportunity and a window of possibility for change. And it's important that you feel that inside of yourself every day of your life when you're hit with different things that throw you off. What is my opportunity for change here? How can I rise above it? How can I visualize and hold that vision of things working out for my highest good and for the highest good of others? Feel the power of that energy. It's extraordinary. And beam that out from your heart to the planet, to our country, to the people who have suffered the violence, to the people who have been hurt by the violence, and to the human condition that we've been in for hundreds and hundreds of years. The change is happening today. Ride the wave. Be the solution. And we will rise and thrive personally as well as planetarily with our spiritual energy lifting us up higher. Feel the presence. It creates the miracles. My love and blessings to you on your journey. Alita St. James. Spread the love, be the solution.